Centre service, cross-border transitional access agreement with West Berkshire. I just want to say a word about that before I ask for any comments, and that is that the main reason for extending this arrangement for another year, which is not ideal, is because of the pressure on the existing waste recycling centres in Hampshire generally as a result of the lockdown, and understandably people have built up, because they've had time, a number of items they wanted to take down to the waste recycling centres, and therefore I think it's sensible that we extend this for a further year. But I want to make it clear this is a transitional arrangement. I'd much prefer to have an arrangement with all the surrounding counties, as we've tried to do over the last few months and years, to ensure that for the public they have the ability to go cross-border, although if they go into another county they may well be charged, which is fine. We charge people now who come from across the border into Hampshire, but that still allows them to use our service. Or, as we've done with Dorset, have a reciprocal arrangement which works both ways. In other words, we have a net transfer of funds from one county to another, bearing in mind the number of their citizens that come to us and the number of our citizens that go to them. And that seems to work pretty well. But I think ultimately what we have to do is work collectively with all our surrounding counties to ensure that the public get the service that they should have. And as part of this decision, we're also looking at the possibility, although it's very early days yet, of finding an additional site closer to the border with Berkshire. And who knows, as a result of that, there may well be more Berkshire residents that come and want to, West Berkshire residents that want to come and use our site. Who knows? Anyway, let me just move on. Is there anything from a legal point of view, David? Is David with us? David Kelly?
I am with you, Leader. I was just fiddling around incompetently with my device. So no, there's no comments from a legal perspective on this.
Thank you very much. And financial? Are you covering that, Carolyn?
That's me, Leader. No, nothing from me, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm satisfied, bearing in mind my remarks, with
Chairman.
the rest. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would like to make a comment. I'm pleased with what you said in your opening comments, because you covered a lot of what I would want to say. I do worry that the end result of this could be a two-tier approach to household waste provision, with those living near the borders often having to face either long journeys or paying to an adjoining authority, unlike those in the centre of the county who've got a choice of sites and don't face either of those challenges. So my hope is that we can move towards reciprocal arrangements of the sort you were talking about, so that we don't get into that two-tier approach on this, because I fear at the moment that's the direction of travel.
Thank you, Adrian. Sorry, I should have asked you to come in earlier. My apologies. Yes, the arrangement that I actually set up with the leader of Dorset County Council, or Dorset Council, I should say now, seems to work perfectly satisfactorily. And I think the aim of what we do is to ensure that the public get the service that effectively, in one sense or another, they're paying for. It may not always be possible to have an arrangement like that with all the surrounding counties, bearing in mind the trouble we've had in the past arriving at any sort of arrangement with some of them. But I think that's a matter for us as public sector bodies to actually work together to ensure, as you say, Adrian, the public get as good a service as they possibly can. I think that's all the comments I've got. I don't think there's anyone else that's due to speak. And if I can now get the decisions. Yeah, there we are. The recommendations at 2, 3, 4 and 5, approving the extension to the transitional arrangements, the cost, which is £85,000, and the review of potential further sites, a further site closer to the border with West Berkshire in Kingsclear, and we'll have a look at that over the coming months. And 5. And I think those are the decisions I have to take, 1 to 5, under the paragraph headings, and I'm happy with that decision. So can you take that as read and make a note of that? Moving on. Designation of appropriate officer. Now this is a bit legalistic. I don't know whether, David, you want to make a comment about all this. I read it rather carefully.
Leader, yeah, no, I apologise. It is by necessity rather legalistic. Just very briefly, there's provisions about the number 2 regulations of sort of belt and braces. They're unlikely to be used. There's only one power, which is about restricting business premises. The powers under the number 3 regulations are much more significant, and they, in essence, give the County Council the ability to issue directions to stop public events or close premises, etc. So because of the need to act quickly, potentially under this, this report recommends delegating that authority to the Chief Executive. And then there's various subsidiary recommendations around enforcement, etc., which are to the Director of Public Health and to the Monitoring Officer. But I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Right, yes. I see that regulation very similar to the ones that we've had up until we got our own, this decision-making process back up and running, where delegated authority was given to the Chief Executive and his officers. I think, although it's not in the recommendations, I would personally like to see, probably written above my signature, the fact that when these decisions are taken, the outbreak engagement board is informed of them, so that we're in a position to know exactly what the decisions are. I only picked that up last night when I was reading this, because I think what's important is that we don't have a situation where, quite rightly, the decisions are taken by the appropriate executive member, member of staff, quite rightly under this regulation, and then the outbreak engagement board doesn't find out about them until after they're in the public domain. Does that make sense?
Yes, Leader, and we can certainly add we can add a sort of an element to the decision which says that the board will be informed as soon as reasonably practical after the decision has been made.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Any other comments? Are there any financial implications at all, Rob or Carolyn?
No, not that we're aware, Leader, thank you.
Good answer, yes. Not that we're aware. There may well be some, who knows. Okay, fine. Let me just get back to the recommendations again. Recommendations paras 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I approve those recommendations. And I think that completes my decision day. Thank you all very much for having what is a relatively early meeing.
Well, enjoy your holiday, Keith.
It's not a holiday, I can tell you. This is not no. It's purely. I'm just using the remote facilities, online facilities we have to be able to do 2 things at once. I be up in Scotland and carry out my duties.
Very impressive.
Well, 'tis